Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So about 3 weeks ago I posted a video, and I'll put the link up on top where you can go and have a look at it, where I was in a press briefing with the Minister of Transport, where they issued new regulations in regards to travelling and also international travel. I wanted to ask a question to the Minister because no other journalist would actually ask a question. After several requests, nobody would bring up the point. It was in regards to the Private Charter Passenger Association and their struggle to engage with the Minister. So today we are fortunate to speak to Fiona, which is the chairperson of PCPA, and she will give us some more information and background in regards to their plight to government to assist these operators that's actually struggling during lockdown and hasn't been able to work. Hi Fiona, welcome. Can you give us some background to who is the PCPA?
Good evening, viewers and listeners. The Private Charter Passenger Association is a group that was formed at the commencement of lockdown. Members that are all privatised, that have absolutely no government assistance with regard to subsidised subsidies or weekly or monthly financial assistance.
So the operators has obviously not been working since the start of lockdown. What is it that the PCPA actually wants from government?
Well, basically, if we're honest with you, Peter, the actual lockdown, despite it, commencing on the 26th of March, what actually happened was one felt the knock-on effects with regards to Europe and America, being shut down in advance or prior to ourselves. So what we asking government for is for our licensing fees that we prepaid to grant the year's extension on the date of expiry of each license that was prepaid, insofar as the period in lieu of what we paid to utilize the roads for commercial use.
So obviously there is different sectors within the transport industry. Can you give us an explanation of subsidized and non-subsidized operators? And obviously what was the effect, the knockdown effect of lockdown on those operators?
Right. With regard to the transportation sector as an entire industry, you get your taxi, which is your public transport, then you get your overland transport, which is your long distance and overland carriers, you get your route carriers, and you get your scholar assisted government subsidized carriers, which obtain from government, your subsidized route carriers and scholar contracts obtain a monthly subsidy. So regardless whether they work or whether they don't work, they get a fixed amount to ensure that they are able to sustain themselves and stay in business. So in many sectors, these particular operators are able to sustain themselves with regard to the funds that government has granted them, despite them not even leaving their depot. And then to further assist themselves, then when they commence the schooling, for example, even with limited passengers, with regard to the slow start of commencement of the scholars transport, they were in fact paid their full levy in some cases, and up to 90% on their routes, as well as their subsidy. With regard to ourselves, obviously we feel as though we've been left in the dark, because the government is engaged with taxi on an ongoing basis every fortnight. Literally, they've engaged with the long haul distance operators to some extent, and obviously indirectly have assisted with the subsidy and the weekly fees or monthly fees that are granted from each Department of Education or Department of Transportation with regard to the amounts that they give the individual operators. Ourselves, we feel basically left in the cold because of the fact that we are solely reliant on the tourism industry and the charter industry, of which neither the tourism international industry have we felt the effects of assistance towards our businesses, and we haven't felt the effects of any events or tours or excursions taking place due to the COVID-19 epidemic.
So Fiona, the PCPA obviously has tried to reach out to government and the minister. What platforms have you guys used, and have you received any response at this point from government?
Peter, with regard to engagement with government, we started basically on the commencement of the organization being formed, which was in end of April, early May. We then went on a subsequent campaign throughout the country, starting in Cape Town, followed by Durban, followed by Pretoria, Johannesburg, followed by Port Elizabeth, with regard to, we call them awareness drives, in order for the government to try and, notice our plight and to make them aware of what is going on in the industry with regard to ourselves having representatives throughout the country in each area. So that was the first thing we did. We obviously also sent 3 legal letters to the Minister of Transport and Minister of Tourism regarding our plight and asking for engagement, of which we received absolutely no response, not even so much as a reply back that we are in receipt, etc. We then, furthermore, I've been engaging via email through all the provincial bodies, through the major opposition party, which is the Democratic Alliance, directly with the ANC, via all the departmental and provincial heads in transport, as well as obviously trying to engage, through the media with the newspaper prints, as well as the media publicity in every sector at the moment, of which we try to engage with them.
That's good.
Subsequently, I did get... Okay.
No, go ahead.
All right. Subsequently, I did get a meeting with Alec Moyeni, the Deputy General Alec Moyeni, of which eventually, after 5 or 6 months of consistent, sending him WhatsApps every day and emails, etc., I managed to be granted an interview or a virtual interview with regard to a virtual meeting I had with him in beginning of September, of which I explained our concern and our faith with regard to what we face and what the industry faces, and the concern for the industries that are, reliant on ourselves. And he thanked me for bringing it for his attention with his 3 attorneys that were present at the meeting, in virtual means, so to speak. And he then advised that, it wouldn't be possible for us to expect a financial rebate with regards to the licenses that we had prepaid, that we hadn't had use for. However, he said that it shouldn't be problematic with regards to looking at a 12-month extension. So I left the meeting quite buoyed up, ready to go back to all the members and, advise what had occurred in the meeting, and, that he would further engage with myself with regard to this. And then subsequently, since your interview or your request for Mr. Mbalula in the ENCA press briefing, he's failed to engage with ourselves ever since. And we're still awaiting government's engagement.
So the PCPA launched a couple of campaigns to raise awareness for their plight. One was the Slow Drive initiative, where all over the country in the main city centres, operators came together. The latest is the video you guys released in regards to the Lions Tour for 2021 and your concern for tourism for 2021. Can you elaborate for us on that?
Right, we're obviously concerned for the everyday South African with regard to the reliable form of transport being available to the international and to the local domestic traveller from a conferencing perspective, from an everyday school education department perspective on going on tours and excursions, and for our international tourists, because if there are no luxury buses available as the reliable form of transport within the industry, it is a very specific type of market and clientele that we deal with for the international tours market as well as the conferencing market. Your drivers are prepped to be able to deal with the international tour market. Your vehicles are kitted out for that, and quite honestly, if government is not going to come to the assistance of the money that we've prepaid to them prior to lockdown, the operators are not going to be able to sustain their costs with regard to licensing, insurance, etc., which we've been, having to fit ourselves for the last 8 months, which are exorbitant costs whether we're in operation or not. And as a result, I don't believe, or the organization doesn't believe, that we'll be able to sustain these costs until next year, March. And it would help us if we just knew that when our business does come around, so to speak, and the international gates do open to South Africa again, and there are conferences taking place and tours and international tourists traveling through South Africa, we will hope that we will have enough money to be able to be registered and licensed and legal on the road without one or two operators having to take chances to put bread and butter on the table, so to speak.
So Fiona, you're talking about the Lions tour. What is the effect going to be if these operators does not get help from government? What is the effect going to be on them and on the 2021 Lions tour?
Well, it'll be catastrophic with regard to many respects, because our international clientele are very, very au fait with regards to their health and safety standards and their insurance liability standards. So, with regards to no private buses or luxury coaches being available, our international visitors will arrive at Oliver Tambo thinking they're going to get onto luxury coaches with regards to aircon, toilets, super luxe features with regard to passenger service, and may very well end up having to utilize commuter buses and taxis, which will then have a detrimental effect on our tourism industry in the future of future visitors coming to our country, as well as corporate clientele on an everyday basis in this country.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Fiona. We really appreciate it, and we hope you guys get some feedback shortly. We will definitely follow up with you and keep everybody informed. Thank you again.
Many thanks again, and thank you for covering our story so vigorously. Thank you.
Well, there you have it from the PCPA side. Their plight for survival is important for tourism in South Africa. International tourism is very important to support many families across the country. We've got a beautiful country that we need to sell to the world and to show to the world. So we'll be following up with PCPA in regards to their plight and to see if government is going to help them out. They need the support. Please like and subscribe the channel, and thank you for watching. See you next time.